And sometimes it would be the most mundane thing. I remember someone wrote a review once. I couldn't park. 1-star review, and you're like, well, that's maybe you should review in the town hall, not me.
Good afternoon. Hello from up on a hill somewhere in Andalusia. Actually, we're in Malaga, don't worry.
We are. Lovely to be up here, Dan. Thanks for inviting me up. It's beautiful up here. Beautiful.
It's about time you decided to come back up again instead of gallivanting around the UK.
Well, I have been gallivanting, as my previous video did say, but for various reasons.
I know.
It wasn't just all fun.
That's a good one as well, because you covered a wide range of things about your trip and trips to different places. Very, very interesting. And we've said this many times. It's not always the grass is always greener. And you have spotted that it isn't.
Well, it isn't. I mean, I think between the video you did, which went down very well on TikTok, and the one I did recently, it is a question of you want to have a foot in both camps, really, from where we're standing, because we do miss various things about the British culture. I think all people who live abroad will suffer from the same thing. So, in a perfect world, I think I'd probably have one foot in both camps.
We were just chatting before we started recording this and talking about the times that we've been in the UK, and I remember spending 3 months back in 2009 and seeing that there were things that were there in the UK, about the UK, that I really wanted to kind of experience more and have around me for a longer period. Obviously it's changed since then, because that was a long time ago, 16 years ago. But it is still, I still get the feedback from a lot of people that have moved away from Spain, they've gone back to the UK, that they really are enjoying it. And no matter what you see on the news and in the papers and everything else and what's being said, they really are enjoying being back in the UK. And I guess you can see why.
Yeah, I can see it. Definitely why. I mean, that was the strangest thing. When I did that video, it was straight from the heart, and it was exactly how I felt. But since doing it, people I know have contacted me, and a few comments on the channel, and people have kind of agreed with me, because we do kind of poo-poo on the UK a lot. And as I said to you before off camera, one of the things I hate about living here is there's a certain part of the foreign community here who all they ever do is big up Spain. It's like, if they're not bigging it up, it's almost like they're trying to convince themselves they've made the right move. They're trying to convince themselves that this is paradise.
Yeah.
Which it obviously is not, because there are, once again, down to circumstance is a very important thing. We've talked about that, your work circumstance, your financial circumstance, but it most certainly isn't paradise. But there are aspects of it that can be seen as paradise.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess one of the things we've spoken about, when people come over from the UK, they want the same home comforts, the same things that they're used to, but with the weather and with the lifestyle from here. Doesn't always work that way.
Definitely not. No.
And that's when people start missing what's going on back in the UK. That's when you miss your family, your real friends, your true friends that are very close. That network of going around, meeting up, which you can have here, but it's not the same. It's just not the same experience.
100%. I mean, when I arrived here in 2002, one of the things that shocked me about a lot of the all-inclusive hotels around where I was based was all people wanted was the UK with sun. People would come in the bar and complain there wasn't the big British channels on their TV. You know, why aren't they showing the British football? You know, it's like, come on, guys, you're in Spain. You know, and there was definitely a lot of that. And I talked to a lot of people who've been here a long time, and you do notice that if you go around their houses, they're still very British. You know, they're still watching the 6 o'clock news when they can, or watching Match of the Day, or Strictly Come Dancing. So when they say, oh yeah, we're really into the Spanish lifestyle, they're not watching Spanish TV, you know? And once again, a lot of them are drinking in British bars with British community, or within, the immigrant groups over here, the bit of Scandies or whatever. They all kind of eventually gravitate towards each other.
Yep, totally.
One of the I've always found it frustrating, and we always talk about it here, is the rose-tinted glasses. And I could be accused of having rose-tinted glasses when I went back to the UK recently. But it definitely is. I always use the example of people used to come in and take a photograph of the view from my bar. And they do it every time they came in. And it's almost like, I know they're putting it up on their social media, it's almost like they want to show off that they're living where that view is. But it's almost like they're doing it to make themselves feel better, convincing themselves that their life is so perfect. Uh, I prefer the more open engagement with people who give constructive criticism. They talk about the things they found difficult here, the things they found great here, because there is everywhere you go, as you said in your previous, there's good and there's bad, bad and good people, good and bad food, and there's no point just trying to convince everybody that your life is perfect because it's not perfect anywhere you live. But without engagement, you don't learn about these things. So we try and at least have an open and honest conversation.
Indeed. And even though this view looks perfect, you want to be here in the winter when it's absolutely blowing a hoolie and hammering it down. It's a nightmare.
Well, it's true that because he said we could try and record outside, but if the wind gets up, no chance.
Totally. Now, moving on slightly, I was in a place the other day, which I'm going to do a video about. And we're actually going there for lunch today as well. So we'll maybe get a bit of footage about that place as well. That's close by up here in Coin. But I was having a conversation with a few people there just to get a bit of feedback as to how they do things. So, for example, in the UK, do you see when you were in the UK? Did you eat out?
Yeah, we got out a lot, obviously.
Okay. Any issues with the food at all at any point?
Nothing really. I mean, we went to the day I was in Abingdon, which is close to Oxford, with all my friends, school friends. The restaurant was extremely busy. It was a beautiful day. The pub was right by the River Thames, so on a day like that, it's obviously going to be busy. And the food was taking a little bit longer than it should have done. And I remember one of my friends said to the waitress, is everything okay with our food order? And then literally 2 minutes later, the manager came and goes, look, I'm just terribly sorry, we've been slammed. And but your food were coming out. And then when we got the food, they came across again and apologized for it being late. So apart from that, nobody had an issue. I think maybe one person forgot their sauce and they raised their hand up and the sauce was brought to the table. But everywhere we went, there was never an issue with it.
Okay.
Anything we had.
Well, the reason I was asking is because, as again we were talking about before, is that the fact there are people that tend to say something about them not having a positive experience with their food. So, for example, you've ordered a medium rare steak and it's come well done. What do? Do you struggle through it, finish it, and then walk out and not say anything? Or do you say it there and then, at the beginning when it comes, oh, it's well done, I asked for it medium rare? It's amazing to see how so many people have this frame of mind, or mindset, to just not say anything and walk out and not tell the business, which doesn't help the business at all.
Not at all. I mean, I originally worked in London in the 90s and cut my teeth in that kind of business in the restaurant game. And I was very lucky. I worked at a place called Smolenski's Balloon, which is right across from the Ritz Hotel in Green Park. An amazing place run by an American. And his service was amazing there. And it probably set me good foundations to how I went on through my catering life. But one of the things I always remember there, he said, right, as soon as you put the main course down, you've got to go back within a couple of minutes and say to someone, is everything okay with your food? And I always thought, well, I can't write redundant that question because people are, and he said, no. Because what happens then at the end of the food and then at the end of the meal, if someone then says to you, well, my steak wasn't cooked properly, and then you can say, well, I did come across and ask you. And if you told me then, I would have done something about it.
They have the opportunity.
They have the opportunity about it. I think a lot of people don't want conflict, and especially if the conflict is in a foreign tongue. Definitely.
Well, I asked that question. So is it an English thing, or is it if you were in a Spanish restaurant or a Spanish speaking restaurant, if you had a problem, would you actually say something? And out of 5 people that I spoke to, only 2 said that they would say something. The others kind of turned around and said, no, I wouldn't, because obviously I couldn't get my point across. And there are so many things these days that can help you. I mean, we've all got mobile phones. Mobile phones got Google Translate, not only written, but also in voice as well. There are earphones now that you can buy. You can buy them online. They're very cheap. You can pick them up on different platforms at €12, €15, and obviously more expensive than that. But they translate in real time. There's a slight delay. Obviously, the cheaper, the slightly slower they are. But you can actually, when someone's talking to you in Spanish, you can understand what they're saying. It's being translated for you, which is a great tool. But people still aren't aware of that, and I still think that they're slightly reserved into still trying that little bit more to be understood or deal with things that they need to deal with there and then, which they can't.
I mean, that sounds like the world of Star Trek to me, with like some sort of universal translator. So I feel completely like a dinosaur now. I've heard that information. Earpieces? What's going on? And I'm like, okay. But one thing I think has changed a lot in the world as the world's become more devices and people are tend to kind of choke against each other all the time, is people like to complain. And what I noticed, what frustrated me with the bar was that people would write negative reviews. And sometimes it would be the most mundane thing. I remember someone wrote a review once, I couldn't park, 1-star review. And you're like, well, that's maybe you should review in the town hall, not me. Or something. It wasn't open when I came in the morning. Well, we're not open in the morning, 1-star review. And once again, I adopted the same philosophy with the cocktails. And I told the staff, when all the people order cocktails, go across and ask them if they're okay.
Yeah.
And I had no problem if a member of staff had recommended the cocktail and that person hadn't enjoyed it, to replace it, because it's very important, the customer service and the client being happy. And I think sometimes people just like to complain for the sake of complaining.
Yeah.
There was a great thing someone told me years ago. It was the same restaurant where I cut my teeth. And the guy used the example of a ketchup bottle on the table. He says, you could give them the best meal, the best atmosphere, the best service, right? Now, that person, during the meal, he picked up the tomato ketchup bottle and he got some ketchup in his hand and he rubbed it on his clothes, on his trousers, and it stained his trousers. He will tell 15 people about that, right? About the good meal, he'll probably tell 5, right? Which I suppose, once again, I'll talk about the social media way of criticizing things now. So the whole idea is make sure everything is perfect. But the trouble is, people prefer to moan than say how great something is.
Yeah, no, it is that way. And the problem we have as well is that even though things have changed, so if you've got a business, whether it's online or not online business, but if you've got reviews online, you can filter them, you can contest them, you can do all kinds of things. But even still, it gets put out there, and until you've seen it and spotted it, sometimes pass, and it leaves a bad taste. But I still don't get this mentality of people in general who aren't prepared to voice their opinion and their qualms to the person they have in front of them, especially if it's someone who's engaging, who can talk to, that's allowing that to happen, and they still prefer to go back behind closed doors and
it's a shame that, because
keyboard warrior.
Yeah, but as an ex-business owner, it's very important, customer feedback, and you want people to keep coming back. And when we first started up and the Spanish started coming into my business, I'd say, look, what kind of music do you listen to? What kind of drinks do you want? Is there anything and you try to adapt around their culture by learning from their culture. Basically, if you're not willing to learn from the customer base you've got, or the surroundings, or from other businesses or things doing well, you're not going to achieve anything. And if people don't say something or suggest something, I mean, you had the old days of the suggestion box, which eventually disappeared because people would troll businesses by putting all sorts of things, leave their phone number for waitresses and things like that. But I think feedback is important as long as it is constructive criticism.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've said the same thing with our videos. We're doing what we think is right, same as I do on my social media platforms. With the video, I mean, some of the comments about the video that was taken, because I didn't give it to anyone, it was taken off a public platform. Some of the comments on there are fantastic, but we want engagement. We want feedback from people. And if there's a subject that you want us to talk about, let's talk about it. If you've got something to say about something we've already done, tell us about it, because that's the way it works. We can only speak from our own experience. If your experience is different in any way, then what we can do is we can go, oh, really? Okay, and we can talk to you more. Like, for example, I interviewed Bevan Marcus. Mark's got some interviews lined up as well, and we'll be speaking to different people over the course of the next few months to get their feedback and to find out what their experience is about living in Spain, because that's what we want to do.
Definitely.
Well, I tell you what, it's great that I think that you, as you said, you surprised yourself of how you were feeling about going back and when you got there and your experience. But I think about living in Spain as well, people are get surprised so many times when they move over, how things change because of that lack of footwork that they've done before, with regards to paperwork, with regards to laws, with regards to what needs to be done, this, that, the language. Yes, there are so many places that speak English, speak different languages, not just English. So many places you can go into boroughs and bars, which you've got specific languages. It's fine. But as one comment on that video, which we spoke about before, one comment said, to integrate with locals, I need to speak their language. What? Really? Locals? What? Locals of your own nationality or locals from the country you're going to? So yes, if you want to be in Spain, you want to mix the locals, learn Spanish. It's that simple. And some of the comments and some of the feedback, but yeah, that's the thing. You have to start to integrate. You have to do your homework. You have to find out things. So anyway,
I've lived here for 23 years. You're a lot longer, but I've noticed I have taken things from the culture here, has made me, I think, more of a complete person, because without the influence of the foreign country that I moved into, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Definitely take life a bit more easy. Definitely don't rush around as much as I used to. So there are things you can learn from other cultures. But one of the big mistakes that people do make here, and they say, oh no, I have such a much better social life. Yeah, because the only place they go is to bloody bars. And they tend to go to expat or immigrant bars, as we like to call them here. And they stay around people who are basically just getting drunk. And before they know it, they've wasted all their money on alcohol and they're going home because they haven't got a job and they're alcoholics. It's a very sad story. And how many times have you heard that one, Dan?
Just a few.
Just a few.
Just a few. Anyway,
Well,
well,
lunch.
good to have you up here, mate. Let's go get some lunch,
Definitely.
and then we'll maybe record a few bits from the lunch and send it through as well. So,
Right.
bye bye from me,
And bye-bye from me.
and bye bye from him.